So, howdy everybody, welcome back for another lesson. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're talking about how not shredding helped me get better at shredding. How does that work? Well, that's what we're going to try to answer today. If you would like tabs for this lesson and you would like my hair to be out of my face, that link is down below in the description. And if you want to check out my free guitar course, which I think would actually really apply to this lesson, it is right here. Well, it's not actually right here, it's linked down below, but you know what I mean. So let's go ahead and jump into these. I have 5 different examples for you. I'm going to kind of explain what the purpose of each one is and how it kind of helped me with just shred in general. Okay, so example number 1 is whenever I stopped trying to fill all these spaces with just fast notes as fast as I could play, because I think everyone goes through that phase, you know, and I'll watch like an old video or something, I'll be like, oh wow, you know, I was actually quite a bit faster a couple years ago. But what happened was when I just kind of focused on what I was playing, and you can play any of these things I'm showing you today as fast or slow as you want, so they can be shreddy, but it made me become much more creative. And I appreciated the moments that had the shred in it more. So basically, before, if I was trying to, you know, go on this horizontal style of run, you know, through G major, which is that one you just heard, but it would go like this. I'd probably do something like that. I noticed whenever I slowed down, I started not viewing just the strings that were next to each other all of a sudden. I started seeing, like, oh, strings across from each other. I was like, oh, okay. And I quickly fell in love with this idea of these larger intervals between your notes, which is where that idea comes from. So it's still a 3-note sequence, but you can hear how those notes are all very close, you know? And essentially they're all in a straight line through the scale. But whenever I go like this, there's a big jump, and to me that really gets my attention because those, you know, the notes are not. I'm not going like this. I'm not going. I'm going. And I like that sound a lot. So when I'm moving through that, I'm just simply going 4/5 on the G, and then 3 on the high E string, and then 5/7 on the G, and then 5 on the high, and then 7/9 on the G, and 7 on the high. Shift up here, I go 9/11 on the G, 8 on the high E, and the final one that I do here is 11/12, and then 10, and I end on a G note somewhere, you know. So why does that help your shred out? Well, whenever I started doing more of the shred stuff, I was like, oh, you know what, I can skip strings, and then, you know, that's really where Paul Gilbert came in, all that kind of stuff. But it made that shreddy side much more creative, and it just tied in with everything. Now, the next thing that happened was whenever I kind of stepped back from just trying to shred all the time, is I began to venture into new genres where I was like, you know, I can't just play slow all the time. I don't want to just play blues. So I started dabbling in other genres, and it made me like a lot more comfortable all over the neck. You know, just because I liked throwing in different styles into, you know, maybe like a typical shreddy kind of solo. So what I did was I showed you a country lick here. Now, I definitely don't have the correct guitar for, you know, chicken picking kind of lick. Now, I'm not a country player at all, but I'm going to show you guys a little kind of a hybrid picking, chicken picking kind of idea. But you hear all the rhythms that are in, you know, all that. I'm not doing a good job of singing those rhythms, but I'm like listening to myself. I'm like, what are you doing? But the idea is this, and it's teaching me like ghost notes and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, again, where maybe before I would just kind of like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna shred, you know, through this thing. I'm just kind of like, oh. Different kind of country things. But what I'm doing here is basically I'm doing kind of like a ghost note or a dead note. I'm plucking the G, but it's not giving me any sound. It's just there for rhythmic purpose. So you don't want, it's basically like a dead note. And I'm playing 10 on the B and 9 on the high E string, and I'm plucking those with my middle and ring finger. So my pick gets the dead G string, and then this is the 10 and 9. So I do it all the way down, 3 times. Now I changed my shape here, and I'm dead notice now on the D. I'm playing 9 on the G and 10 on the B. So essentially there we have that. Now here we changed, basically it's, you know, box 1 pentatonic. So now here we have. Essentially I'm adding some slides, but it's up to you to kind of do that if you want. But basically I'm sliding the 7 on the D. Now I'm doing a double stop here on 5 on the G and B. Then I go 7 on the D, 7 on the B and G. Then I go back to 7 on the D. Now here, I'm going to go 4 on the B to 5 on the G, and I slide up a half step. Okay? And here, more double stops. And essentially, when you're doing stuff like this, you're just doing chord. So I'm playing 7 on the D and G, then 7 on the A, then 5 on the D and G, 7 on the D and G, and then 2 on the D and G down here. I could just get it here. I just like the way, with that G in there, it sounds more snappy. So, there you have it, you know, and throw in some other kind of, whatever kind of country-ish thing you want to do. Okay, now the next thing that helped me is that I became much more aware of what I was playing over. You know, so I wasn't so much just in the key, even though what I'm going to show you is just one chord and over the key, essentially. But, you know, I paid a lot more attention to the background versus just trying to fill it with notes. Chose what I was actually using to play over stuff. So what I have here is essentially this little G major idea. Alright, so what's happening here? Well, we are simply aligning a bunch of G major chords. Like I said, I became more aware, and like I said, you can apply all this stuff and still play it in a shreddy way. It's just, you know, for me personally, it made me approach shred very differently. And right here, like I said, we're just doing a G major. So we're starting on 10th fret of the A string. Then we're going to 9 on the D, and then 7 on the G. So that's our root, 3rd, 5th. And after that, all I'm doing is I am going to that E note there. So technically that's not part of it. That is our 6th, but whatever. It's just a transition note. So we're going to go. And I'm sliding from that 9 up to 12 on the G, which is another G note. And then I go 12 on the B, 10 on the high E string, and I reach all the way to 15. So again, root, 3rd, 5th, root. So now what happens here is I slide from 15 all the way up to 19. And I go pull off to 15, and then back to 15 on the B, and then 16 on the G. Okay, so we went to our 3rd, our root, there's our 5th, and then here's another 3rd. So now I slide back down to 12, and then 12 on the B, then 10, 15 on the high string, so the same as the second arpeggio. Now here I slide from 15 down to 10, then I go to 7 on the high string, 8 on the B, 7 on the G, 9 on the D, and then 10 on the A string. And that's essentially doing that first arpeggio we did, we just added the top part of it. So all together, and then I went to 7, which is another 3rd, and then down to 3rd fret low E string, just a root note. So essentially, other than that 1/6 that we added, it's all just G major. And like I said, you can speed it up, and it can be real shreddy if you want, or it can be a real nice little melodic twist to it. So next thing, whenever I kind of step back from the shred, I realized that, you know, I did a lot of like point A to point B playing, which a lot of players do. So basically, you know, you're starting at one point and you're ending at another point, and, you know, really it's the path you get there that I think is the coolest part. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So, you know, essentially before, I would just kind of like, so this is out of C major, I would just kind of play a C major scale. and would maybe just, you know, fly through it like that. Which I still do, and I think there's a great place for that kind of stuff. I love the stuff. I'm not like, you know, putting down shred or anything like that. But what it made me do is I was like, all right, well, I still want to get here or here, you know, wherever I want to end. But I don't want it to be like this. I started looking at the scale and, you know, different chordal options, stuff like that. And what I came up with was this. I went... You can still speed it up, though, and get a shreddy sound, but it just, to me, it's a much more creative path. So what I'm doing here is essentially kind of starting out with this suspended chord. I'm starting on the C note, so 8th fret low E string, then 10th fret on the A, and then 12th fret on the D. Okay? Now the next one here is this. I'm going to go to 10 on the A string, 9 on the D, and then 12 on the G. So basically it's a 1 note per string idea versus 3 notes per string. Now here we're going to go 10 on the D, 9 on the G, and then was this 13 on the B. Now here we break that rule a little bit. We're going to do 2 notes on one string. We're going to go 12 on the G, and 13, 15 on the B, and then 12 on the G again, 13 on the B, 15 on the high G, and then back to that 13 to resolve it. So, but I love this pattern, you know. Like that could be a riff, you know. Now that final one is just a total shred lick, because what it taught me, the biggest thing it taught me was to really appreciate the moments where it calls for that. Whenever the song is building up, and I'm like, you know what, this would just sound great here, because you know what, you don't want to just play slow all the times, you know, usually, in rock music, stuff like that. And it just gave me an appreciation to be like, oh, you know what, instead of shredding all the time, pick and choose your moments, and where there's that big moment where you need that lick, use it. Because if you just are, you know, if the solo starts and you're just guns blazing the whole time, it can sound cool, but a lot of people, you know, I feel prefer a solo that builds or something like that, or has different, you know, momentums to it, essentially. A lot of, like, diversity and dynamics to it. So it just made me really appreciate what was going on. So this is just a straight up, you know, shreddy lick. So I'm back to that C major, you know, scale. And what I'm doing here is I'm going 13, and I'm pulling off the 12 into 10 on the high string. Now when I go to the B string, I do 13, 12, 10, and I pick it. Now I pick 13 again, and then pull off to 12, and then 10. So on the G, I'm going to go 12, 10, 9, and then pick 12, pull off 10, 9. Same thing on the D. So now on the A string, I'm going to go 12, 10, 8, and then the last one I don't double, I just go 12, 10, 8. So that is it, guys. Hopefully that lesson helps you. Like I said before, tabs are available down below. I'm going to hop on out of here. Hope you enjoyed that. And, yo, I'll be seeing you later. Guitar high fives out of here. Later, homies. Peace out.